gang, I hope this video finds you doing well. I wanted to drop in and share a few tips on art journaling. Now, if you don't have perfectionist tendencies or a tad of OCD, you have no problem just slapping that paint right on the page. But for some of us, the blank page is a real problem. I just wanted to drop in, give you a couple of tips on how I get started. I want to talk just a minute about my art journaling supplies. I like to work on inexpensive loose leaf watercolor paper. You can get it at Hobby Lobby or Walmart. It's not going out into the world as an art piece, so I just use the cheap paper. You can use a variety of just these craft paints. You can get those just about anywhere, not expensive at all. A variety of brushes. I love this one for watercolor. It's got water in the handle here, and when you're working, you squeeze and the water comes out the tip. So not necessary, but it is handy to have. Now, these are one of my favorites for creating backgrounds. These are watercolor crayons. I got these at Hobby Lobby. I love, love, love them. I don't use them correctly, but they're awesome. This is just a student grade watercolor set that also works, but I'm telling you, those crayons are the bomb. Variety of brushes, maybe some markers, and I don't like a lot of collage, but I do like to add some washi tape now and again. Oh, and an old card of some sort. This is a membership card, works great for smearing paint. I love all kinds of art journaling, but one of my favorites is journaling about the books that I'm reading. It is so much fun to bring in the craftiness along with the book that I'm reading. The characters in my Tea Time with a Corpse, they have B&B Club where they meet for book and brush club to journal about the books they're reading. And so we're going to begin with the end in mind and actually look at some journaling pages. This one from Murder with Lemon Tea Cakes was done. And the fun part about journaling about mysteries is that you can hide all sorts of things in the picture without giving away the mystery. That's a lot of fun. And the characters in this particular book are named after different flowers, and so you see the different characters listed here. It's in the fall. It's a tea shop, so of course it's been tea stained. It's got the title here, and it's just fun to see how many things you can embed in here without giving away the mystery. Another one that's in process here that I am super having fun with is this chocolate chip cookie murder. There's a dairy, hence the cow, and I just love cows. And so I thought it would be so much fun to bring in. I'm not done with this one. It's been coffee stained because when I think of chocolate chip cookies, I think I ought to have a cup of coffee. And I'm not sure why I liked the kind of, I don't know, goofy looking text. It's not very clean looking. Maybe like the cow wrote it. It's just what my mind was doing. And so I'm planning on embedding a lot of other things from the book on this page. It's just gotten started. Let's take a look at some background options. And I want to look at some different, now these are not all book journals, but I just want to look at some different backgrounds. This is heavy acrylic paint, just these inexpensive craft paints. You can take and start with, if you'll look here on the edges, it's black, and it started with black paint and then covered in some other colors. We'll look at how to do that. I think I've got one here that's a watercolor background, just lightly done over some white. So another watercolor with acrylic kind of brushed over the top. So we're going to take a look at how to do two different backgrounds. The first one we're going to start with is just a piece of watercolor paper that I have painted with black acrylic paint. I thought I could save us a step and just do that. Did it with a sponge, covered the whole thing with black. And then I'm going to come back over it with some different colors. And if you're just wanting to get started, we're not getting fancy here. And I'll show you a couple of ways you can spread that out. One of which is a card. Get rid of those credit cards and use them to spread paint. Ooh, that already looks kind of mysterious and scary. I would let this dry and then add another layer of paint. Go ahead and wipe the rest of that off. And if you don't like it, paint over it. This is not to be fancy and be all artisty. It's just to have fun. And so I'll let that one dry and we'll look at the watercolor. For time's sake here, I've grabbed a smaller piece of paper, and you might even want to journal on smaller pieces. They are fun to make little books with. I've got a couple of these watercolor crayons, and you can see where I have used my brush on the tips of them over and over again. And what I'm doing is wetting my brush, just got a cup of water here, and this is where that water brush comes in really handy, that's got the water tube in the handle. And I am just mixing these colors. I really like the green and blue together. Add a little bit water and a little bit of paint. And bring these colors in. You can pull in other colors. You can mix and match. You can let me grab one here. This is one done with greens and blues and some yellow mixed in. This one is pinks and purples and blues. So you just take, and this is all you do to get the color onto that page. It doesn't matter if it drips. In fact, you might like it to drip. One thing that you're going to find with using inexpensive watercolor papers and a lot of water or acrylic paints, especially the acrylics on watercolor paper, it's going to want to buckle on you. And a good way to flatten it back out is to paint both sides. A lot of pages that I do will buckle, and if you look at this black one we were doing, you can see how it's trying to bend and buckle on me. But when I go ahead and paint both sides of that, it flattens back out. Case in point, chocolate chip cookie murder. This one was, I just coffee stained both sides so that it flattened back out. So you get the idea here. I'll just put on some more paint. Once you let it dry, you can come back in and add more color so that you get a deeper color in it. See, if I come back over that where it's starting to dry up there, I get a deeper color. Now you do, if you're using watercolor, you don't want it so opaque that you lose that whole watercolor quality. But there you go. That is an easy way to get a background. You can see I threw in a little yellow on this one just to add a little bit more texture and color to that. I'm going to let this one dry. And now I am going to grab another color, and I think I'll throw on some pink. I know these colors do not necessarily go together. And I honestly don't like that one at all. So what I can do is come in and just shoot another color over the top of it. This is what happens when you're doing video. I still don't like it, so I have grabbed a Kleenex and I am just wiping off layers of paint. And surprisingly, I'm starting to like that one. I've got the black coming through, and it's really nothing but a bunch of paint smeared on the paper. But what that does is it gets rid of the white page, and it gives me something that I can paint on top of. If we look back at this particular one, I'm not sure if you can tell, but there's black, there was a coat of yellow, there was some pink, some purple, some red, and so those layers were just done one on another. Let each one of those dry. And this was done with bubble wrap, just dipped in red paint and dabbed that on. So you can get just that mottled look in the background and then do whatever image that you want to do on top of that. I'm thinking about the colors in the book, and I want to add some of this blue here. I wanted to show you a couple more ways just to get your paint on there. And I put way too much. So I'm going to grab this with this brush and scoop a little off. Put it over here on my plate. There we go. And I wanted to show you what this brayer does when I start rolling paint. It adds the color with the mottled look without just smearing it all over the page. You can use brushes. This one is just a cheap, coarse brush. I can come in and do a kind of a dry brush effect with that. I can use a softer brush, again, inexpensive. Grab some of that paint and put that on. And here is my bubble wrap. I've just put some paint on the bubble wrap. Press that down. Pull that up, and it gives some texture to the background. So I would continue to layer with paints and get all of the different colors that I want on before actually putting image or text. That's a wrap on getting started on art journaling backgrounds. I hope you grab your book and your brush and join me for some fun.